welcome back my darling kids, and we're watching a very controversial videos. Fanboys are the worst. Why Royalty is here. I've done a couple of those videos in the past, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're controversial, which I love, obviously. But do you think fanboys are the worst or the best? Let's get into it. And I'm sorry guys, I haven't been around the past week. I have some sort of stomach bug. It's still around, but hopefully I'm getting better. Let's get into it, and like if you want to see your bunny getting better.
So if you don't remember, you probably don't, I assume most of you have a memory of a goldfish. About a year ago now, I made a video.
I believe you just fucking sent that to me.
About
what are we even watching?
femboys that may have indirectly, unfortunately, affected my reputation. Many to this day think I'm a part of said group. No, like all my other videos and like your average nature documentary, I just like to watch, observe, and educate. I'm very much confident in my current...
That's what a cuck said. Him and his cuck. I like to observe.
Character stats and build, thank you. And I am in no way a philosopher in this subject. Think I've exonerated myself there on those phallic claims against me. Anyway, that previous video was basically a very brief overview of femboys, and an answer to an ever-mounting question that has plagued us in current times, and probably the past decade. Is it gay to like a femboy? But one, YouTube really didn't like that video, apparently due to some of the contents of it, probably the first 10 seconds I'm gonna be honest. I personally think it was the thumbnail, which was gender-morphed pyrocynical, which is probably an accurate depiction of him nowadays anyway. And
what? What?
To the pyrocynical subreddit didn't really like the use of gender-bent pyrocynical, along with the discussion and attitude towards femboys in said video, which I don't think they watched fully, because I think I was fairly kind and understanding towards the subject. But most pyro fans are femboys anyway, let's be honest. But looking back at that video, it is somewhat outdated, and it was a bit broad regarding the topic.
Skirt.
And yes, I know, it's hard to identify what my usual content is. I mean, if you look at my YouTube page, we go from serious topics to videos like this. No, I'm not bipolar in any way. I'm just interested in a very range of topics, I guess. Or maybe I'm making this video because I've unfortunately found out that a good percentage of you are femboys. The YouTube statistics do not lie. I don't know how I've achieved this, maybe
If you're a man, you're a femboy. Wait, crackling. If you're a man, you're a femboy. You heard it here first. Can I get a like or a comment if you're a femboy, guys?
been preaching
Oh,
too
like femboys, you generate.
much to the estrogen-filled War Thunder community, but yeah, here we are, and today we are jumping back into the expanded, excavated mineshaft that is the crevice of the femboy community. So clear your schedule, lower your testosterone, and jump back into the closet, because
That's supposed to be low T. Why would I watch him instead?
first, what is a femboy?
Any of you femboys want to come play with my tit?
So the online definition of a femboy refers to a male, usually cisgender, who expresses themselves with traditional feminine behaviours. So basically the guy that plays the support role, or any female avatar in any game, with the ultimate copium excuse, that is, they just want to support the team and look at a female model over a male. Sure buddy, we all believe you. The blue striped thigh highs with the cat toe beans, the wax strips and the medieval chastity belt that are all in your Amazon wish list are only there to obviously enhance your gaming experience.
What?
Especially the pink Razer cat-eared headphones, which heighten your reflexes in game. But femboys can often be mistaken with other groups and aesthetics. Like twinks for example, who are slim, gay or bisexual men with relatively no hair, and whose only worry is the impending doom that is twink death. But compared to twinks, being a femboy doesn't automatically mean you're gay.
So getting older, twink death, apparently.
And that you reside in the borders of Poland, contrary to popular belief. But they also get confused with the trans community. Although some femboys are trans, being a femboy is more of an aesthetic thing more than a gender identity.
Thought once you if you become trans, you are not quite a femboy anymore. You are just transitioned to a woman, so you can't be a femboy. Or is it like not that strict?
Identity. But femboys have been around for some time, apparently all the way back to ancient Greece and Rome, where flesh sword fighting was happening on the daily, and it was somewhat normal. But they weren't labelled femboys, more just feminine men, and any activities with femboys weren't seen as gay, it was more labelled as male bonding. In fact, the only person seen as gay was the one that was getting the extended prostate exam, and no, you cannot use that excuse in the modern era. But for the love of God, I don't want to talk about the Emperor Nero story. That is just straight up nightmare fuel.
Yep, horrifying. But I don't think you had to particularly be a femboy part of the male. It was just like a big cope.
I would say quite recently, around the 2000s, they started to get popular again, probably due to things like the progression of the internet, and yes, due to things like trends where femboys were comparing their schlongs to monster cans. And some took it a step further and put it in their extended inventory slot, which if you want a body temperature white monster...
And just like the increase of OnlyFans and Fansly, there's a lot of money being a femboy online, okay? As Finstar has pointed out. God, that's brutal.
Go ahead, I guess. Aren't you glad you learned that was a trend? And even further through the 2000s with the introduction of things like Discord, YouTube, TikTok, and more significantly anime, more people were coming across femboys. Either questioning their sexuality or wondering if it's a good financial decision to buy a full Astolfo cosplay. In fact, probably due to the COVID pandemic in 2020, it only accelerated the growth of this aesthetic and community at the time.
You don't have to go
because people being
anymore.
inside most days with their only access to the outside world being the internet, which you do anyway, it resulted in a lot of people discovering themselves or things about them they never knew, especially with things like hobbies, like art, crocheting, streaming maybe, and the odd Minecraft phase. Or maybe you decide to start programming in C+, and like most C++ programmers, you take a long look at yourself in the mirror and discover maybe you're not as masculine as you thought you were, and maybe you've developed an abhorrent addiction to Dead by Daylight and Fallout New Vegas.
Hey, I can almost see right down the barrel.
To the point where you see yourself in a new light, a feminine light. I think a good example is Finsta, who all the way back during COVID used to lean into the joke that they were a femboy with their Twitch chat, and it's no longer a joke anymore. They actually...
Yeah, when it was like, yeah, I'm just doing it for money, bro. I'm just doing it for money. I made like 100k just doing it for money. What's happening now?
They ended up discovering something about themselves. On top of the fact, it makes a lot of fucking money. Femboys are well associated with things like thigh highs, monster consuming, most things feminine, and skirts. Yes, like that one person that ruined an entire look during the 1940s. You cannot wear skirts if you identify as predominantly male. Unless you're Scottish, but then again, nobody really cares.
No balls. No balls. I think the whole trying to keep skirts for the women is no balls. If you're manly enough, you can make anything manly. Look at Hawaiians. Look at Maoris, okay? You can make anything look masculine if you try hard enough.
Most people are more concerned with the fact one of your neighbours loves to touch livestock. But against popular belief, most femboys can actually be found more online than in the biomes of the public outdoors. So yeah, finding an IRL femboy is somewhat of a rarity, as most like to keep their hobby a secret due to somewhat of a negative stigma developed as a result of the popularity of femboys, which we will talk about later. But most femboys don't actually express such hobbies in public, more just do it in the comfort of their own home. Like another group of people that get a harsh reputation. But to your surprise, there are many subclasses of femboys. You've got the gothic femboys, that for some reason, more than other types of femboys, are always quite armed with either semi-automatic weapons or just some level of arsenal. You've got the
It's like similar to rotting girls, I feel. Basement dwellers, they always a bit stanky too. You know, where they're like, oh, I'm stinky, I really got pee. And you're like, what the fuck?
Hello Kitty or Sanrio femboys, which are on the same level as their female counterpart. Fun fact, did you actually know Hello Kitty is canonically British? Another hobby we've managed to colonise. You cannot escape us. You've got the tomboy femboys, which seems like some sort of oxymoron. You want to look feminine but in a masculine way. You've got femboys more on the entertainment side of the spectrum, with things like femboy VTubers, which never ceased to surprise me.
Ultra Kill is the shooter game with built-in butt. So
that is the most I've seen femboys, honestly, is tubing and VR streaming. To be fair, like, I've been VR chat for a long time, so I've met a literal slew, bajillions, probably a bajillion, you know, femboys.
Hey Google, remind me to buy Ultra Kill after the stream in like 4 hours.
I know what kind of man you are.
And you have additional subgenres of femboys, but don't worry, all of them are equally as racist, all of them have different spawn rates, and for some reason most of them are gun and history fanatics, and play Dead by Daylight and Hearts of Iron. But you now know what a femboy is, somewhat their history behind it, and the genres of it. But what are the problems that such a community faces?
Ooh, you like boys. You're a boy kisser.
My God, young man.
Boy kisses everywhere. Boy kisses. Okay, if you like to kiss.
Now the femboy community does face a lot of problems. Yes, you can't just download a Linux distro, wear knee-high socks, and play War Thunder or VR chat in peace.
And this is when people start blaming women for like the lack of reproducing and children. Hey, I blame femboy. Your love of femboy, look.
Because there is quite a heavy burden that comes with being a femboy. One of the main ones is the stereotype of it, and the somewhat negative stigma that surrounds it. Over the years, especially recently, being a femboy has become more sexualized and advertised as a fetish more than anything. It's become characterized as this blatantly NSFW thing.
It can be kind of a pain in the ass with most things if you get stereotyped into them. If you've ever like done anime communities, nerd stuff, or anything like that, like you've probably seen one, like the Discord kitten thing. So if some guy who's chronically online sees you with like a pair of Discord kitten headphones or something, oh my god, I'll give you $15, that's my... And it's like, what the fuck, bro? I just bought these from EB Games, it's not that crazy.
And anyone that partakes in it must be somewhat gay, when in reality, it's just an aesthetic. It has nothing to do with your sexuality, personality, or anything else.
I think it's similar to the fact, I know I'm pausing a couple times here, to a lot of people assume cross-dressers are gay guys or lesbians, you know, people who cross-dress as a man or cross-dress as a woman, that they must be automatically gay. But that's not true. Like, apparently there's a staggering amount of cross-dressers that are straight. So it's not like an automatic thing. And I say that as someone who's like done crossplay in cosplay, which a lot of people would put as cross-dressing, funny enough. But it has nothing really to do with your sexuality whatsoever.
It's just simply how you appear. But unfortunately, due to the popularity of femboys in recent years certainly blowing up, and the majority of the attention goes towards people that present themselves as femboys, who are active on platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and God forbid Twitter, and post suggestive content which indirectly assists with the stereotype, and not to mention memes that represent femboys as attention-starved Viagra overdosing fiends.
Hi, my name is Reggie. I like guys. I really like guys. There's just something about them. I like their touch, their smell.
Also doesn't help with the reputation of femboys, and leads to once again the topic being over-sexualized, and rather a poor reputation for those that are in the community. But we all have to remember another slogan of this channel. No, not the one you're thinking of. The loudest part of a community doesn't represent the whole community, or the average femboy, because most femboys you don't even know are femboys. Most are very private about this topic and hobby, possibly meaning somebody you know could be a femboy. It is not me before you finish that comment.
It's him.
Degenerate. And a majority of femboys don't actually act like the majority of what you see online. But of course we have to exclude any Discord using femboys, most of them are fiends.
True. Let's be real, like half of Discord are fiends.
But you probably won't see the non-sexual side of this community, at least on most platforms. But keep in mind, not all femboys are as they are advertised, and if you approach one, contrary to popular belief and Reddit, they are not going to immediately spread their prostate and ask you to deposit your lineage in there, because as
what the frick was that? What was those words? No!
previously educated, not all femboys are gay. And two, they're not all down bad to the point where they would lower themselves to someone like you. They will probably either immediately block you,
Burn. We got burned.
or if this is in public, stare at you like a used condom they found in the gutter on the side of the road. But due to the stereotype and the online perception of femboys, it has led to many in the femboy community receiving harassment or unprompted sexual advances almost at default due to the stereotype. You want the experience of being a female on any dating app? Try being a femboy. You'll probably see so much circumcised meat you'd have thought you'd have walked into a butcher's shop, but it gets
He's a poet, guys. He's a poet.
It's much worse when you think that some of these femboys are receiving these types of messages, and said femboys are underage. Yeah, it's not unheard of.
Oh, yeah, that's what I hate about this, actually going into that. A lot of people they call femboys are just underage boys. I hate that. No, that's not a femboy, that's a child, my brothers. What the fuck?
The community, some femboys are minors, which with the combination of the stereotype is a horrifying thought. Another type of harassment femboys received is a title that used to be acceptable and now it isn't so much, and that title is trap, which back in my day was mainly used to describe anime characters that looked like girls but they weren't.
Yeah, that's the most common in anime terms, and that's what I say. If you're referring to anime characters, it's not so bad as like say trap in that sense, because most of them, like, he's a he. He's not a girl or transgender or anything like that. It's like everyone thinks they are for some reason, so that's what they mean. And so in anime terms, I can understand why people don't think it's as bad, but once you take it out of that, it can be kind of just for the nastiest.
So it was called a trap. Femboys would often get associated with this title because they were not expecting a 12-gauge shotgun with an extended barrel to be under their skirt, but in recent years it actually developed into somewhat of a slur, no longer just referring to fictional.
Everyone, the internet ruins everything yet again. This is why I hate race. Like people who's like just assholes for the sake of being assholes. You ruin everything, okay? Ruin my words. You ruined anime otaku phrases.
Characters, but now is a slur for people mainly in the transgender community and sometimes femboys. But to be honest, I haven't heard the word trap in a while, except when it is actually directed towards an anime character. Another problem the community faces is gatekeeping, as you obviously only can be considered an official femboy if you're conventionally attractive, constantly on a calorie deficit of 1,500, your total body fat is around 5%, and you have to have default feminine features given to you at spawn. If not, you are not considered a femboy, and you probably
Purely elitism. I think it's because it crosses over a lot with cosplay. It has a very similar problem in cosplay, that you're not a real cosplayer or a good cosplayer unless you're attractive, skinny, or the right body type for the character. If not, you're not a cosplayer, even if you make it all yourself. And you find this in every hobby, and everyone probably watching this have come across this at some point, and it's pissed you off.
probably got told to give up on all your hopes and dreams of being a feminine dude. I think with this problem and most others I've mentioned, people have this idea for a femboy, especially on the internet, that you have to act a certain way, often being NSFW, and you have to fit these like physical guidelines to be considered a femboy. But being a femboy is just presenting yourself in somewhat more of a feminine way, not a gender identity, a sexuality, or something that has any strict guidelines. Just boys being feminine boys.
Ooh, you're so warm. I couldn't help but notice your bulgy-wolgy from across the floor.
So in conclusion, I think the perceived definition and appearance of femboys has somewhat skewed over the years, in somewhat of a negative light, when it's simply just an aesthetic thing, it doesn't mean anything else. And by definition, it is not gay to be a femboy, but liking them is a whole different ballpark. If you're talking about liking pixels
We're getting into the controversial part at the end. He chucks it in at the end.
on a screen, I'd just call you a loser. If you're talking about an actual person, either gynosexual or whatever it's called, or if it's anything else, sorry to break it to you, buddy, nobody fucking cares. It's the modern age. People are more concerned currently about Nintendo bending us over a desk.
Okay, true enough, honestly, like, unless you're sleeping with them, most people should not give a fuck who someone sleeps with, as long as, like, they're an adult. It's like, that's your business, bitch.
And entering our anus financially than most things are caring at this current time. But yeah, bit of a quick video for you, and a bit of a change from what I usually do. But that's all I wanted to say, and bye-bye.
Very cute little art pieces at the end. Okay, it was very fair play. I like his videos. He's usually quite fair most of the time, I would say, in his stuff, and I like that. But what do you think, guys? Are femboys the worst? Was he fair in this video? What do you think of it? How would you describe femboyism? Because I know a lot of people think of it more like a fetish than just an aesthetic, like being goth or something. But let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that bell, and I'll catch you next time, my delinquents. I hope you're happy to have me back.